Hey everyone, welcome to episode 266 of the All Dolphins podcast. Hi Omar, long time no see.
I know. How are you? Good weekend, I assume.
It was very heavy emphasis on relaxing actually.
Okay, that's
Not
dope. You
whole
know what's
bunch of
very interesting? It's cold in the morning in April in South Florida, and then warms up and becomes the usual South Florida day.
yeah,
I
it's
don't-
weird actually.
yeah,
It's weird,
it's
but I don't mind it actually. I kind of enjoy it as opposed to the oven the entire day. Not a fan of the oven the entire day.
yes.
Today is April 15th, 2024. Tonight is tonight is the WNBA draft, and I bring that up because one of the prospects who's been mocked, I've seen anywhere between like 8 and 13, is a forward from the University of Utah by the name of Elisa Peely. If the last name
Oh,
sounds familiar, she is the younger sister of Dolphins defensive tackle Brandon Peely. She played, fun fact, she played at USC with her brother. She didn't play with her brother because her brother was on the football team. She was on the women's basketball team, but they were at USC together. Brandon came to the Dolphins through the draft. Alyssa wound up transferring to the University of Utah after three uneventful seasons at USC. Completely broke out, became a star at Utah, Pac-12 Player of the Year in 2022-2023, third team All-American last season, and now again, like I said, you look at those WNBA mock drafts, and she's like anywhere from 8 to 12, 13. So props to Alyssa Peely. Big night for Brandon Peely, who did not get drafted in 2023, did make the Dolphins' initial 53-man roster, was waived, practice squad, re-signed to a future contract. And who's to say he doesn't have as good of a shot as any of those 17,000 defensive tackles they signed?
it's only seven.
It's what?
It's only seven.
Oh, it's for effect. I'll go 17,000.
Don't
But
even
who's
say.
to say? Because he did show a little something at times last summer.
I haven't. He could easily, you know what, that batch of defensive tackles, anybody could easily be starting to waived. I don't know. I think it's going to really depend on the scheme that they utilize and how those guys fit in. And Peely's probably just got just as much a chance as anybody, including a draft pick, which I'm doing these mock simulators right now. And I think the position that gives me the most trouble is that defensive tackle position. Because if you don't use one of your first two picks on a defensive tackle, you will be booty cheeks out just later on in the draft.
Except here's this is the part where I would say the Dolphins have picks in the first and second round, then not until the fifth. And at that point,
You're
fifth,
just
fifth
taking
through six or
BPA.
seven, you're taking BPA regardless, ideally. But at that point, again, if you hit on five, a six, or a seven, that's a bonus. If you're expecting like high impact or future star from a 5 or 2, 6, or 7, Dolphins have had very good success in the fifth round, I should say. Oh, they have. Zach Thomas, Brian Cock, Rashad Jones, Andrew Van Ginkel most recently.
All
Uh,
right, fine. Since you're going to bring in the old history, yes, they've had good success. You're right. That's a that sounds like an Alan Poupard piece right there. That sounds like a
which I have done many times, and I will probably redo in some form. I'm doing a position by position. If you guys are noticing on si.com/NFL/Dolphins, um, position by position, Dolphin draft history with the hits, the misses, the number one picks, and all good stuff. Today was wide receivers. I encourage you
Did
to.
you throw Joe and Jay Ajayi in that fifth round pick chronicle of success stories that you used?
When I wrote the story a year ago, 2 years ago, I probably included him. Although here's the thing: well, he was a success story in the sense he had the one great year in 2016, but it kind of fizzled pretty quickly because he was traded in 2017.
What about Nolan Carroll? What
No,
about Chris Clemens?
no.
Wow.
I mean, they made the team, but they made the team and they started games. But
Nolan Carroll, come on, fifth round
would
picks.
you
If,
call
if,
it
if my fifth round picks have the success and career that Nolan Carroll had, I will sign up every single day.
success and career? For some
Fifth
reason,
round pick.
hold on. You're fond of the dude, and I respect and appreciate it. Nolan Carroll was a very good dude. Ask typical Dolphin fan, average Dolphin fan, to name DBs of the 2010s, that area, because he was drafted in 2010, unless I'm mistaken. To name DBs of that era. How many of them do you think would skip over Nolan Carroll?
Very serviceable, reliable, consistent. Okay. Had a lengthy career after the Dolphins, Dallas, Philadelphia. Hold on. Wait a minute. This isn't what we were intended to be podcasting about. But
by the way, we got a lot of stuff on the agenda, but apparently Omar.
Hold on, wait a minute. But we're not going to disrespect Nolan Carroll. If I say to you, Alan Papard, that I will offer you up Nolan Carroll as a 5th-round pick for all the 5th-round picks, Nolan Carroll career for a 5th-round pick, you're turning your nose up at it?
He started, I brought him up. He started 5 games in 4 years with the Dolphins.
You didn't answer the question.
What is the question? There's no question. What's the question?
Are you turning your nose? If I'm offering you Nolan Carroll-esque career for the duration of the 5th-round pick's career, are you saying you're not taking it?
You're not winning. You're not getting anywhere with a team full of Nolan Carrolls. No offense to Nolan Carroll.
As 5th-round picks? Hold on, wait a minute. We're not getting anywhere.
Nolan Carroll was a good, solid 5th-round pick. I wouldn't call him a steal.
That man started 56 career games as a 5th-round pick. Played 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sorry,
5,
my numbers
6,
are off.
7.
He started 26 games for the Dolphins. My apologies. 2 years as a starter.
Played 8 seasons in the NFL. A 5th-round pick that plays 8 seasons in the NFL. I know he did not have a super tremendously impressive career. He wasn't Rashad Jones, but you're not.
He wasn't Andrew Van Ginkel. He wasn't Rashad Jones. He wasn't Andrew Van. He wasn't as impactful as Andrew Van Ginkel. Dude, I remember the dude.
I know you remember the dude, but are you turning your nose up at Nolan Carroll for a 5th-round pick?
I'm not, but don't include him when I say the great 5th-round picks of. I think Jim Kick also was a 5th-round pick. Jim Kick, Zach Thomas, Brian Cox was a 5th-round pick. Rashad Jones, Andrew Van Ginkel. Come on. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on.
Nolan Carroll's gonna find you anyway.
And I like Nolan Carroll. A great dude, very, very good dude. Hey man, because I don't know. I know some of your favorites. I don't know all of your favorites throughout the years.
It's not.
I hit a nerve.
I haven't talked to Nolan Carroll in like 7 years.
It doesn't matter. I hit a nerve. I clearly hit a nerve.
No. This is about think about the draft struggles that this team has had in late round picks, and you're turning your nose up at Nolan Carroll.
I don't think their late round picks have been as horrible as you make them out to be. Recently, they have not been good in late.
Recently, I was good.
Okay, quick history lesson involves draft picks number 66 because we're on episode.
Devon Godchild's 5th-round pick.
There you go. Another one's a good one. There you go.
You might have something there. You might have something there. Dolphins should just collect 5th-round picks.
I didn't just throw that out of the air. I mean, I've done the research and I did something on that before. Number 66, there are twice the Dolphins have made that overall selection. One of them was, I'll agree with you, a very good under-the-radar draft pick from Hampton University in 2008. He was a defensive
Kendall Langford.
Kendall Langford, very good. First pick of the 3rd round in 2008.
Actually worked for the Dolphins last offseason in their minority coaching program. Spent time in the front office, talked to me about it, said they are very heavy analytics as a team, as an organization. They are an analytics-driven team. And I was like, ooh, that's important information to know. So now I know it.
Okay, I have to say it. And I shouldn't say it because everybody accused me of being too negative to begin with. I'm an old dude. Not a huge fan of analytics.
Me neither.
If overdone, and that's a lot of times it's overdone.
Me too.
Okay. Wow. But we're both too negative. So there you go. So today was, as I said, April 15th, the opening of the Dolphins offseason program. We had the obligatory. Pretty much every team does this on social media. Little video of guys showing up, reporting for their first day of work. at the facility since the end of last season. Kind of some guys, a lot of the guys have been there before, but as a group. And we saw Tua, as he said he would be, attending. We saw, among others, I saw in the clip, you can add more names if I'm missing anybody. I saw Braxton Berrios, Raheem Mostert, Robert Jones.
Robert Hunt. No, I'm just joking.
No Robert Hunt, no Christian Wilkins. And that was cool.
You saw Tyreek. I guess.
I didn't see Tyreek.
I saw some pictures. Tyreek and Waddle. I don't know if they were old pictures. Maybe. I don't know.
I didn't see either in that little video clip that we saw, and for some
reason,
they
weren't in the video clip. But let me look to make sure that they weren't old Dolphin pictures. Because
Jordan Poyer, I saw. Trying to think who else I recognize. A couple of.
We're not taking attendance. It's OTAs, and in fact, it's weightlifting.
Well, thank you for setting me up. Phase 1 of the offseason program, which will make up the first 2 weeks, consist strictly of meetings. Conditioning, strength and conditioning, physical.
Did you include Jaylen Phillips?
Jaylen Phillips was there. Bradley Chubb was there. Cameron Good was there. The 3 guys who were injured last year. I will say Chubb and Phillips looked pretty well. Cameron Good had a sleeve that covered the entirety of his left leg.
And he was walking. I was quite impressed with the sleeve. Makes me wonder if he's going to be healthy enough for camp.
Which will bring us to Jaylen Phillips in that very topic a little bit later on, because we have more pressing things. Anyway, and then the other one is physical rehab. So those are the 3 things that teams are allowed to do in the first 2 weeks. There is some on-field work in phase 2, which is 3 weeks, and then teams are allowed 4 weeks of actual 7-7 or 9-9 or actually.
Zach Sealer was there.
Zach Sealer was there. Very good.
Ooh, he's got the fancy new truck.
I didn't look at the truck. So anyway, and as it bears repeating, the Dolphins are not taking full advantage of their OTAs. Teams are allowed to have 10. Dolphins have 6 for a second.
Oh, that's Jaylen Smith. Oh, in the new Tesla truck. Okay.
Again, as Omar mentioned, this is voluntary. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, CeeDee Lamb didn't show up in Dallas because he's unhappy with his contract, but he's not holding out because it's voluntary.
I want to know about, the one guy I want to know about.
Who's that?
Javon Holland.
Did not see him.
Yeah, I don't know if he's there or not. And
no, correct. But I'm going by the video, and one would think, this is just me saying, one would think the Dolphins social media team would make a point of showing the most high profile players, which why you saw Tua, you saw Chubb, you saw Phillips, Raheem Mostert. Those I did not spot who are high-profile players would be Tyreek, Jaylen Waddle, Jalen Ramsey, and Javon Holland. Which doesn't mean that they weren't there. It just means they were not shown on the video the Dolphins put out.
And this is weightlifting and basically study work. One thing I want to use this Dolphins podcast platform to do.
Advocate for players? No.
Other than advocate for players.
Okay, sorry.
I'm right now. I'm advocating with Adidas for Tua Tagovailoa to get new slides. He wears some dirty cream slides, and we've seen it going back to last year. He's an Adidas. He's an Adidas athlete. He's sponsored by Adidas. Adidas, let's get him some new Yeezy slides.
Hook him up. Okay, let's move on to the one main topic today. It involves Jaylen Waddle indirectly, because actually we're talking about one of the big items of news in the NFL on Monday, which was the new contract signed by Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver Devonte Smith. And you wrote about it for SI.com/NFL/Dolphins, because obviously this has an impact. Effect on Jaylen Waddle.
Let me address this, because not only did Devonte Smith get a new deal, but Jerry Jeudy, 2 of his teammates and wide receivers with the University of Alabama, 2 of happened to be Tua Tagovailoa's former teammates and wide receivers. They got broken off a new deal. Okay. These are important because this is the next generation of wide receivers, which Jaylen Waddle happens to be part of. Devonta Smith got a 5th year triggered for $15.6 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got a 3-year extension that totals $75 million with $51 million guaranteed. So when you put the math all together, he is basically looking at $90.6 million over the next 4 years, which averages out to about 22.6. Not all of it is real and guaranteed. When you do the guaranteed money, I believe you're at
66 or 67.
67 over 3.
No, over 4.
No.
Fifth year option plus the 3-year extension.
Yeah, but but more than likely the 3-year extension only has 2 years of guaranteed money on it. That's generally.
So you're thinking the 51 million guaranteed includes the 5th-year option?
It does. Say that again.
See, you're suggesting that the 51 million guaranteed that he got per reports includes the 15.6 million guaranteed on the 5th-year option. Okay, I don't know that was made clear.
Yeah, it's not going to be made clear until but they only report what's favorable because they never expect reporters like me to actually go comb through the contracts when they're actually
reporters like you and then 17,000 others. So, Mark, come
on. Not necessarily.
I love you, buddy, but you're not the only one who.
I know that, but most people never ever parrot. Most people never. They'll just say, "Oh, he's making $22 million a year." Do you know that Tyreek Hill is the highest paid receiver in the NFL? And he will never, ever see more than $24 million a year, ever.
Is this the part where we're supposed to cry for him?
No. But his contract is reported at $30 million a year.
I know.
Okay. But there's this perception that, oh, God, we're going to have to pay Tyreek. We're going to have to pay Jaylen Waddle $23 million a year because now Devonte Smith is making $22 million a year. No, that's not accurate. That's not factually accurate. In fact, there are only 18 receivers in the NFL who are actually making over $20 million a year. And that's just in their contract, not actually what they will receive in real money. And it goes along the lines of me constantly complaining and crying and moaning about the fact that everybody just parrots out and reports out fake numbers. Patrick Mahomes, what is Patrick Mahomes at? Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, the 2 highest paid wide receivers in the league, do not make $50 million.
I know. Oh my God, you beat this topic to death, my man.
Okay, no. But everybody's like, oh, Tua's going to make $50 million. Tua's going to make $55 million. How is Tua going to make $50 million when the 2 best MVPs of the league do not make $50 million?
Yeah, but the point you're missing here is that it's going to be presented as such.
Yes.
Like, for example, like the Burrow is 5 for 275. Okay, when the real money is actually less than that. Tua's contract is going to be presented at 4 or 5 for whatever it is, and when the real numbers are going to be less than that. And
but you're missing my point. I'm always talking real numbers. People always parrot out fake numbers. You don't see the problem with that? If they're never going to get the fake numbers, why do we talk about the fake numbers?
Again, as long as we compare fake numbers to fake numbers, real numbers to real numbers, then that's fine.
That's where I'm with it.
Okay,
I'm with that. But
what's been reported, for example, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. What's been reported with Burrow is 5.275. That's the one that was out there. Okay, and that's the one that's most often out there. And this is or Daniel Jones was 4.160, which equates to $40 million a year. So when the Tua contract comes in, it's going to be based on, again, what's presented initially, not what the real value of the contract.
Justin Herbert's at 7 for 300. So who you like? So now, but everybody says that, oh, Joe Burrow is the highest paid quarterback in the league. If one got 7 for 275 and one got 7 for 300, why is Joe Burrow the highest paid quarterback in the league? See, the math ain't mathing, and people don't pay attention to the details of the contract. They just repeat what initially reported, which we all know is generally fabricated truths, just to make the contract seem better than it is.
Well, that, and you know very well that's agent driven. But this is where, and again, if you want to go through the trouble of doing that with everybody, is then scrap the annual average and go with just the overall guarantee.
That's what I do. I only count guaranteed.
Okay, then what's the real guarantee for Joe Burrow?
The real guaranteed for Joe Burrow is 146.5. The real guaranteed for Justin Herbert, since I know you're going to ask, is 133.7. But he's got guaranteed for injury 193, which is not that it matters. But quarterbacks, it's little because they have to restructure quarterback contracts all the time. So their fake money is massageable. Whereas other people's fake money, like Tyreek Hill, no offense, Tyreek, is, he's not going to see it because there's no chance the Dolphins are going to pay Tyreek except $45 million in 2026. So,
or some kind of number in 2025. That's a big question. No, and the question, figures aside, whenever the real money of Devonte Smith's contract, it's obviously a good starting point for the negotiation with Jaylen Waddle. What you give him, I think they're pretty close. I know some numbers are better for Jaylen Waddle. This is where
more
somebody
receptions, more yards.
Yeah, but hold on. This is where somebody could make the argument that the Dolphins' offense is a lot more pass-centric than that of the Eagles, which is, I mean, what's you think Eagles offense immediately? You don't think passing game, you think tush push
or run game. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I never even thought about that the Eagles are run centric.
They're very comparable players, if we're going to be honest about it, they're very comparable players.
Yeah, they were comparable when they were in the draft.
Yeah, correct. Not in terms of style, in terms of ability. I mean, you can do very well with either one of them.
Yes, and Jaylen Waddle celebrated his brother's contract on Twitter, as he should. And my point of bringing this up and making the comparison is, if you said to me right now, the Dolphins need to sign Jaylen Waddle to a $20 million-ish a year contract in real money, I say to you, absolutely. And your perception is what?
I would have to look again at what the market is for real money, and I'm trying to look it up real quickly here. Hold on.
When you have contract.
By the way, somebody came up with, and again, I don't know what figures this was based on, but now the Eagles have become, I think it's just a second team with two $20 million a year wide receivers after the Chargers with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and now A.J. Brown and Devonte Smith.
Yep.
And that didn't work out well for the Chargers because Allen and Williams were never on the field together.
Okay. I think ultimately, eventually, the Dolphins will have two $20 million wide receivers. The question is when. If we go this long, if we go the route, obviously we're both expecting Jaylen Waddle to get his fifth-year option pick up by March 2nd.
May
2nd. That gives the Dolphins ultimately 17 days to try to sit here and hammer out a deal, or they could just trigger the fifth-year option and buy themselves some time. The biggest issue to me is, if you look at where this organization has fallen short from a business side the last couple of years, it's in locking up their own players to early deals. Yes, you've got the Zach Sealers of the world, where you actually managed to get a deal done. And keep in mind, Sealer sat out most of the offseason program. He was there, but he sat out the work. But then you didn't get Christian Wilkins done. You didn't get Robert Hunt done. You did get Austin Jackson done, but you didn't get Brandon Jones done. You didn't get Raekwon Davis done. And you didn't get – actually, that's not fair to include Andrew Van Ginkel, because Van Ginkel actually was a free agent twice, 2 straight years.
Correct.
So,
but you can't. Here's the problem, though, and I understand the theory is you have to identify priorities among your drafted and developed players. You can't re-sign everybody to second contracts.
not when you have ridiculously big, large draft classes like they had during this rebuild.
You mean free agent? You mean free agent classes?
Yes. No, ridiculously large draft classes. I mean, when you got 3 first-round picks and then another 2.
Yeah. But again, you have to identify the guys who actually help you win games as opposed to guys who are contributing. For example, I would make the argument that you can easily find a much cheaper alternative for the same production as, no offense, good dude, but Brandon Jones. Do you really need to spend a ton of money to?
No, I think Jordan Phillips could. Jordan Phillips, look at that. I think Jordan Poyer can easily replace
Davis. Do you need to spend $7 million a year for the kind of production the Dolphins got from him?
No.
I don't. I like the approach there. If we're talking about replacing him with 2 or 3 of those 17 defensive tackles they signed, I don't mind it. I don't think Raekwon was a difference maker for the Dolphin defense. So this is where I say you just can't. I get it, but this is where you need to identify your priorities, and it starts. For example, now, how much of a priority do the Dolphins have to pay big money to keep Jaylen Holland? Do they have to do that for Jaylen Waddle? Do they have to do that for Jaylen Phillips? Who else is coming up soon? I think those are the 3.
How dare you ignore Liam Eichenberg?
That's rude. That's just rude.
Hey, he's coming up free agency too. Don't ignore him.
Okay, so if you were to rank those 3, we're going to piss off some people. If you were to rank those 3,
oh my God, you just ignored Liam Eichenberg.
The last part that you've been taking a shot at. What's the last one you said about him?
How dare you ignore Liam Eichenberg as a impending free agent?
I heard you.
You just keep ignoring me.
No, and by the way, it's actually fun. It's interesting because I know some Dolphin fans were wondering, like, should the Dolphins select, Tua's brother in the draft? It's funny, nobody's mentioned, should the Dolphins draft Liam Eichenberg's brother? Who's actually a better prospect than Taulia Tagovailoa. He is.
Yes, he is.
By all accounts, yes. Tommy Eichenberg's a linebacker at Ohio State. Okay, so my question is still on the floor. In order of priority, who do the Dolphins need to prioritize in terms of signing to a second contract? Jaylen Holland, Jaylen Phillips, or Jaylen Waddle? Understanding that the Dolphins don't have the 5th-year option with Waddle, they do with the other 2.
You mean Dolphins don't have a 5th-year option with Holland? They
correct.
Do with the other 2.
Correct.
Okay. Yes, I think Javon has to be your number 1 priority because he's the one that's upcoming free agency, and you would hate to see him fly the coop. And if you're gonna sit there and talk about develop, you have some time with Waddle and you have some time with Jaylen Phillips, primarily, especially with Jaylen Phillips coming off the Achilles injury. Don't you want to see that production before you give him a $100 million contract? So I'm putting that on ice. While it would not be wise to sit here and play out the 5th-year option with Jaylen Waddle, you could always franchise tag him. Whereas I don't think you're going to have that opportunity to franchise tag Jaylen Holland, especially if you're not getting this multi-year deal done with Tua Tagovailoa. Now, if you do get the multi-year deal done with Tua Tagovailoa, then you can slow drag the Jaylen Holland deal because you can always use a franchise tag if he's worthy of it. But to me, Javon is the most pressing guy because he's the next guy who's going to fly the coop.
I agree. And yeah, this is not necessarily a statement on who's the most vital to the Dolphins' chances. It's the fact, again, Dolphins, if they want to, they have control over Waddle and Phillips for next year with the 5th-year option. It's 14.4 for Jaylen and 15.6 for Waddle, as you mentioned. While we're on the topic of Jaylen Phillips, things kind of blew up over the weekend. The University of Miami had its spring football game. Phillips attended the University of Miami after starting off at UCLA. They did a sideline interview asking him how his rehab's going. Rehab's going great. And then I don't have the quote right in front of me, but he's saying they're planning on being healthy for the season and, God willing, staying healthy for the season. However, and props to Barry Jackson, because some people blew it up. Okay, Phillips can be ready for the start of the season. That's not exactly what he said.
No, it wasn't.
And then props for our buddy Barry Jackson for making that point in his own copy today. So no, it's not the same thing. And then I wrote a story for SI.com/NFL/Dolphins where I made that exact point as well. Also brought up the Cameron Wake comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And looked at Cameron Wake's own return from an Achilles injury he sustained. He sustained in the 2015 season. And then the contrast and comparisons. Why do you keep looking over there? With Jaylen Phillips. Say hi to whoever's in there, Omar.
All right, I will. I love the Cameron Wake comparison because obviously that is the bar. That's the metric that everybody's going to be looking towards. And Cameron did make it back for the season opener. I can't remember exactly when he suffered his Achilles injury. Was it?
Would you like to know the exact date?
I would like to, and I know you know.
Okay, October 29th, 2015, against the New England Patriots in a Thursday night game at New England. That didn't work out well for the Dolphins. They got spanked 36-7.
So that means he's a month ahead of Jaylen Phillips.
Correct.
So that means a reasonable, and I can't remember back that far. Did Cameron Wake do all of training camp? I believe he might have been like a 1 day on, 1 day off kind of program.
Yeah, that part I don't remember. I do know how he was used early on. I don't want to spoil the entire story
so you can read it on
SI.com/NFL/Dolphins.
And he did have a very productive comeback year. I think he was a comeback player of the year candidate too.
He was, I believe, third in the voting, and I believe it was won by Jordy Nelson, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, Jordy Nelson was the year Brent Grimes. Anyway, we digress. But here's the thing. The bottom line with that for me is it's absolutely great that rehab's going well. And just know, if you know Jaylen Phillips, the way he takes care of his body, he's going to have as good a shot as anybody in a situation to come back quickly from that injury, because that dude puts a lot of work into his body. It's kind of obvious.
Yes.
But him saying it's very important, that him saying I want to be healthy for the season is not the same as saying I'm going to be ready for the opener. Not saying he can't be. I'm just cautioning that doesn't automatically mean that. All right?
It's I don't personally want to put pressure on him and Bradley Chubb to say that they're going to be ready for the start of the regular season, or should be ready for the start of the regular season, because I think that that's being irresponsible. And keep in mind, we all know that Mike McDaniel will not be irresponsible. And in fact, Mike McDaniels has said that they had to tell both individuals, you're taking a week off from training. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the right approach. Now that they can monitor and watch and push, it'll be interesting to see where they are. And if I don't expect either of them to participate in OTAs or mini camp. But the question is, will they begin the training camp on PUP? And my guess on that would be yes. And I think that would be a wise proposition. And if I were being aggressive, I would say they miss the first month of the season and then play in the second month when October rolls around. But that's looking into the future. And as Mike McDaniel likes to point out to us, Jaylen Phillips has taught us, do not prognosticate injuries and rehab and recovery.
You mean Jalen Ramsey? That's the Ramsey. That's a Ramsey rule. Don't set a timetable, because then you don't set expectations. And if the player comes back earlier, all the better. So I wouldn't put any limitations on what they can do. We don't know. I would highly suspect, as with Omar, they're going to start training camp on PUP. Same with Cameron Good. And then,
it's funny. Cameron Good suffered the injury the exact same time as Bradley Chubb, yet he's walking with a compression sleeve on his left leg. Chubb and Phillips are not walking with compression sleeves.
Was actually different because he tore patellar tendon as opposed to torn ACL. And I'm no doctor. I just play one on TV. Don't know exactly quite which one would be more severe. I don't know. Maybe there's a comfort issue there, perhaps. Who knows?
Or maybe he's smart enough to, or maybe those other guys are smart enough to know a compression sleeve with me and pick me in a video in a picture with a compression sleeve is not going to be a good look. It's going to lead to a ton of speculation.
Do you think they care about that?
Yes, they're both very image conscious.
Yeah, but you actually don't think there's going to be speculation about their status regardless?
Why feed into the speculation that they might not be ready on time with a compression sleeve?
Okay.
When you could just walk into the building and then put one on.
Well, that's
Cameron
fair.
Good, you slipped up, young man.
But it's all it is, though. It's speculation because the truth is we don't know. I mean, again, the early reports was Jalen Ramsey would be out till December, and he was on the field in October against the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Freak of nature.
No, sorry?
Freak of nature.
Yeah, and he put in the work. But the ultimate point, though, the most important thing isn't so much when they come back, is that they at some point come back as themselves. Because to me, the key to the Dolphin defense in 2024 is going to be if they can get a decent amount of weeks with Bradley Chubb and Jaylen Phillips as the dudes they were last year.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, on that note,
we're out. We're wrapping up. You know how to find our work, or actually you don't, but we're going to tell you how to find our work. SI.com/NFL/Dolphins. We know Alan Poupart is working on that name. So
not just me, not totally up to me. Otherwise, it had been picked already.
Yes. All right, folks. We will see you tomorrow. As you know, alldolphins.com. We are here all week, every week, leading up to the draft, and we'll probably be doing draft weekend shows just because the draft takes place on the weekend. All right. Looking forward to it. See you later.